Right. And then he said, well, imagine if you'd never said that to him. That airplane would never have crashed, and those people would still be alive. Oh, hey, hi. Welcome to The Jib. This bi-weekly podcast is about the many and varied schemes of the many and varied U.S. law enforcement and intelligence agencies, organizations, and committees, and how they are stupid and funny. Join us on our merry journey through space and time. Hi, I'm Barry, and I've been banned from family funerals because at my mother's funeral, everyone who said, "I'm so sorry," I just said, "Yeah, sorry you got caught."
That's a good one. Hi, everybody. I'm Seamus, and you may remember me from part 1.
Of this episode.
Yeah.
I do. I remember him from part 1. I remember him very well. With his mustache. You shaved your beard.
Yeah, I had to. There was an accident between me and a pine tree, and the beard was a casualty. So it's growing back. It's just much grayer all of a sudden.
I was going to say, what's her name? But I guess pine tree works as well.
Yeah.
All right. We're not here to discuss your facial hair.
Pine tree is actually the safe word, but you know.
Pine tree is a safe word. My safe word is that the best you can do, you bitch. Anyway, we're not here to discuss safe words or pine trees.
No.
We're here to discuss the Dominican Republic. This is part 2. If you haven't seen part 1, I don't know how to help you. Sorry, guys. This is Operation Power Pack Part 2. We left the Dominican Republic in 1916, like I guess many Dominicans, when Woodrow Wilson sent the Marines in after threatening them with an imposed president. He said he would impose the president. Now, here are some quotes from Woodrow Wilson, which may or may not be connected to this in the sense that they're not at all. But here's some quotes of the kind of guy he is. In 1893, he said, told you no N-words, didn't I? I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Negro rule under unscrupulous adventurers had been finally put an end to the South, and the natural, inevitable ascendancy of the whites, the responsible class, established. He said that.
Good guy. What a great president he was. Oh, yeah.
So that's just black and white in general. In 1913, he said, "I'm going to teach the South American republics to elect good men." So I guess that's somewhat...
That's a dog whistle compared to what he was just saying. Yeah.
It is a dog whistle. Good, he learned. Good.
Yeah.
In 1914, he said, "The United States must be neutral in fact as well as in name. We must be impartial in thought as well as in action," which I assume was a reaction to the World War I. But anyway, in 1915, the year before they sent in the Marines, in 1915, he said, "No nation is fit to sit in judgment upon any other nation."
Mm-hmm.
So they're all nothing to do with the Dominican Republic in particular, but that's the way he was thinking. As we discussed in our last episode, the justification for this invasion was the Roosevelt corollary to the Monroe Doctrine. The Monroe Doctrine is the American idea that the European powers are no longer welcome in the Americas, which I guess isn't so bad. And the Roosevelt corollary was that the US would interfere in any country of the Americas which they felt was unstable enough to justify this action, which is a little bit more hairy. Over time, unstable enough turned into might go communist, and the whole thing was regularized, at least in Latin America, if not the Caribbean, during the 1970s as Operation Condor. The US occupation was called the military government of Santo Domingo, and depending on how you want to measure these things, it was successful. Here are 3 examples. Now, we did this before with... in the Patrice Lumumba episode, I went on a little rant about how people say colonialism is great for these places because it brought them roads and court systems and so on, right? So here's 3 examples of what the military government of Santo Domingo did that they themselves would regard as a success. The first one is a central law enforcement agency called the Dominican Constabulary Guard put an end to the squabbling between regional warlords. True. However, this National Guard was directly under the control of the American Army and later would be the main tool of control, oppressing and torturing anyone they regarded as an enemy of the state. The second one is the national budget was balanced and the national debt started to steadily drop during the occupation. However, the country's finances had been handed over entirely to the National City Bank of New York, who we last heard in our podcast about Haiti, if you remember. This would lead to foreign corporate ownership of their most valuable asset, which is the sugar plantation. At the moment, meaning 1916, it's the sugar plantations. In 1920, the Americans passed the Land Registration Act, which simultaneously dispossessed thousands of campesinos who had no paper title to their lands, and also honored the often forged title deeds to sugar plantations owned by American sugar companies. Is that a good thing? I don't know. Depends on what you mean.
Right.
Although generally very profitable, sugar prices crashed in 1921, which drove any small sugar farmers out of business, allowing the now huge American multinational sugar companies to buy them out. By 1926, 12 US-owned companies owned more than 81% of the total area of sugar plantations.
Shocker.
Yeah, the third thing here is, again, this is something they will tell you is good news. 3, an infrastructure project linked for the first time. Oh, I should have just said road. I said infrastructure project. That's typical Barry, isn't it? A road linked for the first time Santo Domingo with the second largest city in the Dominican Republic, Santiago, which is in a completely different part of the country. However, it seems obvious that this road was built solely for military purposes, so the US Army could respond more rapidly to any insurgency. Now, surely with all these wonderful benefits of a US occupation, everybody would be happy, right?
Oh, yeah.
The Americans couldn't find a single Dominican politician to support the occupation. They also instituted extreme censorship laws and jailed political dissidents, which at the time was more or less everybody. Almost everybody in the Dominican Republic was fighting against the occupation, despite the magnificent gifts it provided. Do you have the photo of the island, just to give people a quick... This is the photo, not a photo, I got this off Google Maps about a half an hour before we went to air last time. This is the map of the Dominican Republic. Everything on the right-hand side of that, the larger chunk of the right-hand side, is Dominican Republic. That's what we're talking about. You can see the Santo Domingo is on the bottom there, the south, I guess you'd call it, and then way up at the top there is Santiago. So for the first time, they had a road joining those two, which is good news, I guess, but depends on what's going on the roads, right? Almost everybody in the Dominican Republic was fighting against the occupation. The most organized group, the Gaviaros, concentrated in the east provinces. The Americans outmanned and outgunned them, but they could not get much farther than a stalemate because the Gaviaros had the support of the people. It's always a problem in these areas. And it was the same problem they had in Ireland. Another group was the Patriotic League of Ladies, a group of feminist writers. One of these, Rosa Smester Marrero, of whom I have a photo, I believe. It's 1.5 there, it should be. There she is now. That's Rosa Smesters Marrero. She said, and this is a quote from her, "Women have had a prayer on their lips that God help us, and that the gift of justice be granted to the people who oppress us, and the shame of ignominy does not fall upon the country of Washington and Lincoln. There is an unusual fact, a monster against which we will forever clamor, the landing of American troops in our country under the guise of friends and protectors to strip us of our rights and our holy freedom. Can there be a greater atrocity?" That's what she said. Now you can snap back to us if you want.
Yep.
She's one of the Patriotic League of Ladies. So you can see at the time they were well aware of what was happening and who was doing it, right? They didn't need Barry Purcell on a podcast to explain it to them, right?
Right.
After World War I, all of Wilson's 14-point talk, which we discussed again in the Haiti episodes, all of Wilson's... The Haiti episodes. We did 3 episodes about Haiti called Operation Uphold Democracy.
Was I there for that?
Is this how you feel when I talk about the penguins? Is this how you feel?
The penguins are real.
Are you training me on how to have empathy? This is an empathy training mission for you, is it?
What are you talking about?
I'd like to apologize for anything I ever said about the penguins, okay? This feels bad, man. Okay. Next time you talk about the penguins, I won't be a little bitch about it, okay? I promise.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry.
We'll see.
Okay. So as I said, as we discussed during our Haiti episodes, Wilson's 14-point talk about about independent nations, which we did discuss on those episodes, which may or may not exist, seemed to have an effect. Both international pressure and U.S. public opinion moved against the occupation of Dominican Republic. When Warren G. Harding took over, what did you say? He was part of the Ohio Gang or something, was it?
Yes, he was. Yeah,
and all his friends were there.
When we did the William Burns episode, which is a real thing.
Yeah.
Because apparently that, is also,
Yeah.
The Teapot Dome scandal, all that happy stuff. He was actually...
Teapot Dome scandal, yeah.
Yeah, he was Warren B. fucking a lot.
Warren B. fucking. I remember that, yeah. But for this purposes, we won't be going into that. But we have an episode of all that stuff as well.
Yeah.
The Ohio Gang. When Warren G. Harding took over the presidency in 1921, the writing was on the wall for the Dominican occupation. Harding had made ending the occupation a part of his campaign. The first Harding plan was to negotiate a withdrawal of troops, but to maintain U.S. control over some of the finances in the National Guard. Eventually, U.S. Secretary of State Charles Evans Hughes and Dominican negotiator Francisco J. Peinado agreed on a plan for a provisional government. Under the Hughes-Peinado plan, which is what it's called on Wikipedia, it has its own page, the principal function of this provisional government would be to organize elections as soon as possible, which is fair enough. That's what you want, right?
Sure.
Any provisional government, anywhere, their first responsibility is just to organize elections, should be. Because the Americans didn't want to leave themselves open to war crimes, it also recognized as legal everything the Americans did in occupation.
Yeah.
Acknowledged all debts incurred during the occupation, because remember now, America owns all their debts.
Right.
And promised to maintain the customs tariffs that had been so kind to American interests. So, I don't know. The elections were held in 1924, and Horacio Vasquez became, I don't know why I'm saying it, Horacio Vasquez, right? That's how they'd say it, isn't it?
Sure.
Became the president of an ostensibly free and independent Dominican Republic. At least the guy in charge was a Dominican, right? Which is nice. He seemed a safe pair of hands until 1927, when he tried to subvert his own constitution by extending his term of office from 4 to 8 years and eliminating the prohibition on presidential re-elections. Or as we call it, doing a Putin.
Yeah.
This returned the country's political class into turmoil, which eventually led to the declaration of a revolution by former Vasquez supporter Rafael Estrella. And it soon became clear that Estrella had made it some kind of a deal with the chief of the armed forces, Rafael Leonidas Trujillo, who decided to remain neutral during the revolution. Now, when I say he decided to remain neutral during the revolution, what that means in practice is he let Estrella take the capital unopposed, because he was the chief of the armed forces.
Right.
Stop it. So when he says he remained neutral, he's kind of telling you what side he's on. Sometimes when people tell you they're neutral, they're telling you what side they're on, generally, right? In 1930, Trujillo was elected president with 95% of the vote in an election where the army harassed and intimidated voters and return officers were eliminated. So many opponents that Trujillo eliminated so many opponents that Trujillo was the only name on the ballot in many districts.
Nice.
Estrella was made vice president. He died this Estrella guy died in 1945 of a surgical procedure. In unrelated news, Trujillo had personally hired that surgeon. So whatever you want to think about that, right?
Oopsie poopsies.
Oopsie poopsies, knacka-noopsies, right?
Yeah.
In a development many of our regular viewers will no doubt have predicted, Trujillo ruled the country with an iron fist for 31 years. The Dominicans would sort of know peace, security if you played his game, and prosperity, however unequal, but at the cost of all their civil and political liberties. Maybe the worst single, you can guess, right? There'll be more in the rest of the podcast, but you can kind of guess what's happening. Maybe the worst single act committed by Trujillo was called the Parsley Massacre. Sounds harmless enough, right?
Sure.
Trujillo encouraged anti-Haitian prejudice among Dominicans, a prejudice which is still mainstream in Dominican political life today. In October 1937, Trujillo gave a speech. Now, this is a quote from him. To the Dominicans who were complaining of the depredations of Haitians living among them, thefts of cattle, provisions, fruit, etc., and were thus prevented from enjoying in peace the products of their labor, I have responded, I will fix this. And we have already begun to remedy the situation. 300 Haitians are now dead in Banica, and this remedy will continue. That's the end of the quote. So that's pretty explicit, isn't it?
Yeah.
He then ordered the army to kill any and all Haitians along the border, which means pretty much all of them. The army managed to machete their way through somewhere between 10,000 and 40,000 Haitians before they ran out of people to kill. They used machetes because bullets could be traced back to the army, and he was still trying to maintain a level. There were also reports of soldiers using bayonets to impale babies and deliberately cutting open Haitians and throwing them into the sea for the sharks.
That's just Haitian propaganda that you're putting out there, Barry. So
I think this is where I've heard the impale babies and bayonets thing before, but I think the Dominican Republic is the source of that thing. I've heard it in the Brazilian thing as well, yeah. On the 15th of October, the nominal president, although Trujillo was really in charge, said, and this is a quote, "The good relations between Haiti and Dominican Republic have not suffered any damage," end quote. But he refused to be drawn on what might have caused that non-existent damage. He wouldn't talk about it at all. When forced, Trujillo signed an indemnity agreement to pay Haiti $750,000 compensation to the families of the victims. Due to a combination of underpayment and corruption on the Haiti side, the intended recipients received about 2 cents each.
Wow.
Yeah. As a part of that agreement, Trujillo got to say that, quote, "The only threat that hovers over the future of our children, that constituted by the penetration, pacific but permanent and stubborn, of the worst Haitian element into our territory." He said that was part of the agreement, yeah. In other words, what should have been the end of his career was instead a moment where anti-Haitian violence was legitimized.
Yeah. It's funny how that always works out.
Well, it's very rare, actually, for something like that to sneak its way into an indemnity agreement.
Yeah.
But I guess he signed it and everybody else signed it, so it went through. Trujillo technically wasn't president from 1938 to 1945, but really he was. And we call that doing a Putin as well. If you know anything about the presidency of Medvedev in Russia. The main vehicles for exercising his power were the National Guard, that I've already mentioned. By 1940, 21% of the entire national budget was accounted for by the military. And later, the Servicio de Inteligencia Militar, SIM, Trujillo's secret police. These motherfuckers always have a secret police, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, you have to, right? I mean, it's just it's a faux pas if you don't, if you're some sort of despot. You know, it doesn't look great.
Yeah, it doesn't look right. Where's my secret police? Am I a dictator or not? Anyway, SIM was involved in kidnapping, extortion, and various acts of terror, as, again, familiar viewers will be aware of.
They SIM?
SIM, Servicio de Inteligencia Militar.
So the Sims.
The Sims, yeah. The Sims were involved in kidnapping, extortion, and various acts of terror. They were active in Cuba, Mexico, Guatemala, New York, Costa Rica, and Venezuela. And it's quite rare for these secret police things to be involved in other country stuff, but as you will see, they were. And this same organization was also in charge of lobbying American legislators to pass laws favorable to Trujillo. There was an extensive bugging operation monitoring domestic and foreign phone conversation at their headquarters, at the Sims headquarters in Santo Domingo. So I'm just going to give you a brief tour of some of their operations. Operation 1. Sometime before 1956, Trujillo was made aware that Spanish Basque separatist politician and professor Jesus Galindez was working on a book specifically criticizing him. You can throw up the next photo now. It's photo number 3, I think. Okay. See his name, Jesus Galindez. That's Jesus Galindez was working on a book specifically criticizing him. This guy, Galindez, had lived in the Dominican Republic from 1939 and was forced to flee to New York in 1946 while investigating the Trujillo government. Trujillo sent agents to buy the manuscript from Galindez directly for $25,000. And this is back when $25,000 was a lot of money. Yeah, right. Galindez refused because I guess he has a bit of integrity. Weird. Galindez, what do you think happened? He refused to sell the manuscript to Trujillo.
I don't know. That's, It sounds like he's wanting something bad to happen to him, I guess.
Galindez was last seen entering a subway station
there it is.
In Manhattan on the 12th of March, 1956. A Dominican Airlines pilot named Jerry Murphy, Irish guy, was commissioned to fly a single patient who boarded the plane from an ambulance at Amityville, New York to the Dominican Republic that same night. I'm sure there's no connection there. No. Galindez's body has never been found. Later that year, the Irish pilot, Murphy's car was found near Santo Domingo and his body was never found either.
Shit.
As Murphy was an American citizen, the U.S. State Department pressured Trujillo to solve the case. Another pilot called Octavio de la Maza was arrested for the murder but admitted nothing. Before a trial could commence, he was found hanging in his cell with a suicide note which helpfully included a confession. Unhelpfully, the FBI determined that this note was an obvious forgery. Octavio de la Maza had a brother called Antonio de la Maza, whom I am mentioning here for no reason.
Right.
What?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, no reason at all.
Yeah.
Galindez's book, La Era de Trujillo, an estudio casuístico de dictadura hispanoamérica, which means a case study of the Latin American dictatorship, was published in Buenos Aires in 1956. You can get a copy in English as The Era of Trujillo, Dominican Dictator, which as far as I'm concerned is a much better title than Un estudio casuístico de dictadura hispanoamérica. I mean, I think dictator could have just said like dictadura Dominican, but anyway. So you can buy that book if you feel like fucking fascists everywhere. You can buy that book and see what Galindez has to say about him. The second operation, the Sims, oversaw the Legión Extranjera Anticomunista del Caribe, the anti-communist foreign legion of the Caribbean, which despite its fancy title was created solely to overthrow the communist government of Cuba. In 1959, a ragtag group of right-wing Greeks, Germans, Croatians, Dominicans, and even some Cuban exiles who were training in the Dominican Republic invaded Cuba. There was an invasion of Cuba, but they were easily defeated by Castro's forces.
That'll happen.
That'll happen, yeah. That's not the last that phrase will be heard. If you want to feel like watching our episode called Operation Mongoose, you'll hear more about easily defeated by Castro's forces there. The third operation, despite the total control over the public life of Dominicans, resistance was possible. 3 sisters, Patria, Minerva, and Maria Teresa Mirabal, their name was Mirabal, and their husbands were leaders, and they were definitely the leaders, and their husbands were kind of tag-alongs, were leaders of the movement called the 14th of June movement, which distributed pamphlets about the crimes of Trujillo and acted as a rallying point for munitions and weapons to use in case of a revolution. On the 25th of November, 1960, the sisters were on their way to visit their husbands in jail when their car was stopped by Trujillo's men. They were strangled and beaten to death, as you do with women, right? That's the way to deal with women. Their
Yikes.
mangled bodies were then placed in a car and driven off the road in a poor attempt to make it look like an accident. Later on, one of the murderers, Kiriaco de la Rosa, said, this is his quote, "I tried to prevent the disaster, but I could not, because if I had, he, Trujillo, would have killed us all." And I have no doubt that he's telling you the truth about what would have happened, but you'd find some way to say no, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
Like,
or
if it's a choice between strangling a woman and letting Trujillo kill me, I'd just let the guy kill me.
yeah, play fucking dumb,
Play
so you
fucking
didn't
dumb.
see them. I don't know, man.
That's how they did it in Russia. Stalin, that's why Stalin thought he was surrounded by idiots, because everybody around him was playing dumb.
Yeah.
Because he didn't want to. So if you didn't want to murder a bunch of people, what are you going to do, right? Can't say no to them. Anyway, in 1999, United Nations General Assembly Resolution 54/134 made 25th November the International Day for the Elimination of Violence Against Women.
Okay.
Yeah.
That made a difference, I guess.
Well,
it's a good thing, but I mean,
it's a concept. I've seen it happen in lots of countries, and it does get noticed.
It always feels like some sort of side prize for murder and genocide.
Yeah.
But you have this day now. Yay!
Yeah, well, violence against women is obviously not going to stop.
Yeah, I know, but it's just, I don't know.
And it's a kind of and that was a very clear-cut example of violence against women, I guess. So it's something.
But Barry, we got a hashtag out of it. It's okay now. It all went away.
We live by hashtags now, don't we?
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So that's the 3 operations, of sample operations of the SIM. So you can throw us back up there, I guess.
Oh boy, those are different kind of sims that I was accustomed to as a kid. So.
Yeah. Trujillo exercised almost total control of the economy, with his family owning the vast majority of the land and the businesses in the country. He operated monopolies on salt, rice, milk, cement, tobacco, coffee, lumber, insurance, and he owned the lottery. While he did invest in the infrastructure, it should come as no surprise that this infrastructure seemed optimized to serve the corrupt industries more than address the transport needs of the people. Rewards were given to prominent and loyal members of the armed forces, and family members were put in charge of government departments. Trujillo's son, Ramphis, was made a colonel in the army. Guess how old he was?
14.
He was 4. When he was
damn. Okay.
But you went the right way.
Yeah.
You undercut. You went the right way. When he was 6 years old, he was promoted to general. So I guess he must have done very well.
Shit. Okay, I'm just remembering about the baseball game that was played down there during his reign. Yeah, and I think his son was dressed up in a general's uniform then and was a kid.
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay. Yeah, Satchel Paige played in that game because we wouldn't pay him here in America. So, anyways.
I don't know anything about Satchel Paige or the baseball game. I saw some stuff about baseball in my research, but as I know nothing about baseball, I didn't want to write about it.
Yeah, the Dollop does a great episode on it, so if anybody's interested in that.
Satchel Paige's participation in a Dominican Republic baseball game. Okay.
Yeah, it's a really good episode. It's I
imagine it would be.
Yeah.
Because I imagine they understand, as you do, what baseball is.
Yeah, but I mean, even if you don't know anything about baseball, you'll still find it.
I went to a baseball game once in Anaheim.
Okay.
Yeah, it was. There was a lot of standing around and waiting for something to happen.
And nothing really happens.
People seem to regard it as almost like a party that you invite friends to and you share food at.
Yep.
Which that's not such a bad thing to do at a sports event.
No.
I didn't hate it. It was all right. So when this guy was 6 years old, Trujillo's son Ramphis, he was promoted to a general. His brother, meaning Trujillo's brother, was in charge of the national radio station, La Voz Dominicana. There are rumors that Trujillo would regularly have sex with his ministers' wives.
Why not? Yeah,
because it was a way to test his ministers. He wanted to know if they were ready to accept an extreme humiliation. This is according to
like Caligula. Oh.
Yeah, I mean, it's very old school power sex relations, right?
Yeah.
This is according to the Nobel Prize winning writer Mario Vargas Llosa, the Peruvian guy, who wrote a semi-fictional novel about Trujillo called Feast of the Goat.
You got to show off that you actually own the book. I saw you.
Yeah, I bought it years ago, but I didn't quite understand until I started doing this research. I didn't understand how great it is. There's a lot of stuff in this that's true, and the untrue stuff is just the central character he has going through it.
Okay.
To make sense of it, yeah. Anyway, that's called The Feast of the Goat. Trujillo loved himself.
No,
obviously.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Because he was a narcissist and he had more or less total control over every aspect of Dominican life, this meant everybody else had to love him too.
It's weird how that always works out.
So now we're going to have the top 10 Trujillo things.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Right on me.
One, as soon as he was inaugurated, Dominican Congress agreed to name his tenure the Trujillo era. On day one, they called it the Trujillo. This is not us in retrospect calling it the Trujillo era. Day one, they called it the Trujillo era, and that's why Galindez called his book the Trujillo era. Number two, after a hurricane destroyed much of Santo Domingo in 1930, he rebuilt the city and renamed it Ciudad Trujillo, which means Trujillo City. Number three, he renamed the highest mountain in the country Pico Trujillo, which means Trujillo Peak. I guess that's obvious. Hundreds of statues were erected all over the place with the inscription, era of Trujillo, benefactor of the fatherland.
Okay.
He renamed the province of San Cristobal to Trujillo. Also, La Vega province was renamed Benefactor, meaning him. Monte Cristi was renamed Libertador, meaning him. I don't know how to pronounce it. Espaillat province was known as Julia Molina after his mother, and Monte Plata was renamed Jose Trujillo Valdez after his father.
Okay. Well,
Number five.
He's getting away from directly himself. It's at least not all about him. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
his flowers. Come on.
That is him. He allied himself strongly with the U.S. at this point in time, he allied himself strongly with the U.S. due to their anti-communist stance.
Well, it's not like we've never liked dictators before, So.
Well, yeah. and like all dictators, eventually there is a break in that relationship.
Right.
He allied himself strongly with the U.S. due to their anti-communist stance and called himself the world's #1 anti-communist.
Okay.
There's some competition there.
Yeah.
Number 6, he had a collection of over 10,000 neckties. I don't think anybody needs that many ties. Number 7, various public images, including compulsory portraits in homes and license plates, carried his image with the words "Viva Trujillo" and other slogans. So if you look at the next photo, we should have one of those things.
Uh-huh.
You can see that you just hang up somewhere in your house, right?
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't wait to get that on my wall,
It says, "En este hogar Trujillo es símbolo nacional," right? That means in this house, Trujillo is a national symbol, right?
Yeah.
1955 annual, that just means 1955 is the year of the benefactor of our country, right? I don't know what rectitude. Libertad means freedom. Trabajo means work. I don't know what the rest of it means. Sorry. So that kind of thing was in every house, right? Some of them would just say "Viva Trujillo," the more moderate ones, I guess. Number 8, the national airport was called Aeropuerto Generalísimo Trujillo. Now it is called Las Americas International Airport these days. The National Baseball Stadium, which I guess you were discussing earlier, was called Estadio Trujillo, and now it is called Estadio Quisqueya.
That's good.
Perfect. In 1937, he built a 40-foot obelisk on the seafront in Santo Domingo called Obelisco de Malecón. Malecón just means pier, to celebrate himself. In 1947, right 10 years later, he built another obelisk on the same seafront called Monumento a la Independencia Financiera, to celebrate the great job he did of eliminating the national debt, meaning basically giving the Americans a load of money, because the US, if you recall they owned all the debt.
Yeah.
The Dominican Republic today, they just call these the male and the female monuments for reasons like that. It will be obvious to you when you see the photos. Number 10 of our top 10.
When do we get the baby monument?
Any minute now. The main street of Ciudad Trujillo was renamed Avenida Presidente Trujillo. Today it is called Avenida 27 de... What's 27 in Spanish? 27, something like that. Called Avenida 27 de Febrero, to celebrate the date of independence for the Dominican Republic in 1844. A much better name for it than Avenida Presidente Trujillo. And as always in our top 10s, we do have a bonus round. Bonus round is not something named after... You had that ready, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
Hey! The bonus round is not something that's named after Trujillo, but it's something they called him. Trujillo got the unofficial name Bottle Caps.
Bottle caps?
Bottle Caps, because of his Zhukov-like love of wearing medals.
Of course.
Which we saw in the earlier photo that was up there beforehand. Where are we now? Oh yeah, I can throw us back up. Hi. As is common with these power-hungry total control...
It's into the top 10.
Yeah, thank you. I really got to learn to slow down, don't I?
It's all good.
As is common with these hungry, total control guys, he was also deeply paranoid and saw conspiracies everywhere. Now, in his defense, some of these conspiracies were real, but a lot of them weren't.
Sure.
He became obsessed with Venezuela's president, Romulo Betancourt. Or I guess that's the French pronunciation, Betancourt. Betancourt had released several statements critical of Trujillo, and as a response, Trujillo sponsored various disaffected Venezuelans in his Betancourt's country to unsuccessfully overthrow the presidency. And this happened a few times, a few little lame-ass attempts to do something. Betancourt took a case against the Dominican Republic with the Organization of American States, which, if you recall from previous episodes, is a United Nations-like organization set up in 1948, and it was set up partially at a suggestion of the Dominican Republic that they made in the 1930s. And this only made Trujillo more angry, and sometime in the middle of 1960, he ordered a good old-fashioned assassination.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Now we can have the next photo of the smoke. There you go.
Boom, boom,
A car bomb was placed in a parked vehicle that Betancourt was going to drive past in Caracas, the capital of Venezuela. The bomb exploded, killing Betancourt's head of security, but Betancourt survived. The following day, he appeared at a press conference, and that would be the next photo, please. I don't know if you can see there.
Oh, yeah.
The following day, he appeared at a press conference with bandaged hands. You can see his hands are all bandaged up there from being blown up. And his opening line was, "I'll have to be brief because of the injuries I suffered in yesterday's assassination attempt. They make it hard for me to talk." Now that's a fucking boss-ass move, right? The next day is a press conference after getting blown up in an explosion.
Yeah, that's called getting out in front of it.
That's called getting out in front. But also, it's like a boss move.
Yeah.
World opinion sharpened against Trujillo. The OAS, now the Organization of American States includes America, by the way, includes the United States. The OAS censured the Dominican Republic, severing diplomatic relations and imposing economic sanctions. So America had enough of this guy by 1960. It was at this point Trujillo continued on his tour of fatal errors by threatening to align himself with the previously hated enemy, the communists.
Right.
The national radio station, run by his brother, remember, started talking more and more about the means of production. And the Dominican Communist Party was suddenly legalized.
Oh, no. What was he thinking?
What was he? Does he know nothing? Has he learned nothing? The United States, who were fine with Trujillo up to this point because of his hardline attitude to communism and willingness to allow American investment, turned against him. Eisenhower asked the National Security Council Special Group to start making plans. One of the files released by Trump this year, by the way, which is how fresh this information is, one of the files released by Trump as part of the JFK assassination files recently revealed that the CIA codename for all the efforts to deal with what is now called, or what was then called, the Trujillo problem from 1960 was E4D. That's what they called it. Okay. The specific efforts to have him removed violently was codenamed MSLU. And we did not know any of those codenames before this year.
Alrighty.
So let nobody say nothing about Trump. He's my man.
Yeah, I'm going to HR after this shit. Okay.
Barry would live to regret that. Okay. In May 1961, Trujillo was on one of his many trips to one of his many mistresses when his car was stopped by a group of men who shot him dead with weapons supplied by the CIA.
Fuck yeah.
That's
what the hell? How did that happen? How am I rooting for the CIA all of a sudden?
Yeah. In an interview with the BBC in 2011, one of the assassins, General Antonio Imbert, then 90, claimed that he still had the M16 given to him by the CIA for that purpose.
Nice.
Another of the assassins present at the scene was Antonio de la Maza, who I mention here for no reason at all. Mm-hmm. In the Dominican Republic, they do not call this an assassination. Now, let me get my head around this word.
Okay.
They call it ajusticiamiento. No, ajusticiamiento. There you go. Ajusticiamiento. Right? It's called ajusticiamiento, which means like killing somebody that's fine because it's a good idea. Yeah. I have one word for that called ajusticiamiento. Right? Unfortunately, they did not plan much after that, these guys. And for a moment, it looked like members of Trujillo's families would take over because remember, he's already implanted them into every section of public life and the civil institutions. Ramphis, who you will remember was a general in the army since the age of 6, sent the Sims round to conspirators and round them up and have them killed. Hundreds of people were arrested, detained, and tortured, including many who had nothing to do with the assassination, but you'd expect that as common enough, right? For instance, General René Roman Fernandez, Secretary of the Armed Forces, who was a part of the conspiracy, in fairness, he was a part of the conspiracy, but was not one of the gunmen, was tortured in an electric chair before being executed by a submachine gun. Yeah. The New York Times reported that he had been found guilty of treason on June 21. That's as far as they went into it. So I guess that's true. He was, but I think that's only half the story that the New York Times kind of left out. By November 18, the last of the conspirators were murdered in what is known as the Hacienda Maria massacre. The day after, November 18, a group of pilots arranged attacks on a series of military installations loyal to Trujillo. Unlike Trujillo's assassins, these pilots were well organized, well coordinated, and had plans for what they were going to do next. The Rebellion of the Pilots, as it's called, sent the remaining members of the Trujillo family out of the country, and the Dominican Republic could now begin the long, slow, and often annoying walk towards democracy.
All right.
Now, I'm just going to check the photos, see if I got it. No, not yet. Okay. In 1962, the Dominican Republic held their first free elections in their history, arguably. The winner was Juan Bosch. Bosch, as far as I know, is a German name, and Juan is a Spanish first name. This guy's called Juan Bosch, a left-wing writer and politician who had been living in exile under Trujillo and who founded his party, who founded his own party, the Dominican Revolution Party, in Cuba in 1939. However, his campaign of land redistribution, that phrase again, right? And nationalization of U.S.-owned assets. Now remember, the U.S. owned pretty much all the land in this country. So when you say nationalizing the U.S.-owned assets, you're basically saying nationalizing the land.
Right.
Property. Land redistribution, which means nationalizing the U.S.-owned assets.
Yep.
And the proposals to establish civilian oversight of the military annoyed everyone from the Catholic Church, business interests, the U.S. government, and his own military. After 7 months, he was removed from power by a military coup, who were in turn replaced by a civilian junta led by Donald Cabral. On April 24, 1965, leftist forces unexpectedly deposed Cabral to try and get Bosch back in control.
Okay.
Communist-inspired groups dubbed Los Tigres started fighting against loyalist army units in the capital and quickly overwhelmed the Dominican security forces. The Dominican Civil War had kicked off.
Nice.
Now, fearing a communist revolution, 3,500 U.S. citizens were evacuated by airplane or helicopter to several nearby battleships, including the USS Ruchamkin, the USS Wood County, the USS Boxer, and the USS Raleigh. Now, as to what 4 battleships were doing off the coast before this thing kicked off, that's your own business, right?
Yeah, it seems a little conspicuous, but you know.
The U.S. ambassador said, another quote, "I recommend that serious thought be given to armed intervention to restore order beyond mere protection of lives. If the present loyalist efforts fail, the power will go to groups whose aims are identified with those of the Communist Party. We might have to intervene to prevent another Cuba." Now that's interesting. That tells you a lot.
Yeah.
He was quite open about the motives here, supporting a military regime to prevent a communist takeover, i.e. communist takeover in this context means the return of the democratically elected Bosch, who was elected in the first free and fair democratic elections in the history of the country. But they're trying to prevent a communist takeover rather than the protection of any American lives or Dominican lives. And they're open about it here.
Yeah.
Lyndon Johnson decided that there was no time to build an international coalition, and he ordered that this evacuation morph into a full-scale military intervention, which was named Operation Power Pack.
Ah, there it is.
There it is. It was the first open U.S. intervention in Latin America for 30 years, although they had obviously been involved in several clandestine operations during that time.
First I've heard about it.
Yeah. The second U.S. occupation of the Dominican Republic was underway. The first one, of course, being the one under Wilson. Yeah.
Right.
On April 30, 1965, the 3rd Brigade of the 82nd Airborne Division landed at the San Isidro Air Base. The invasion also involved the 1st Battalion, 508th Infantry Regiment, the 1st Battalion, 505th Infantry Regiment, and the 6th Marine Expeditionary Unit. More than 40,000 U.S. troops participated in Operation Power Pack. Even at the time, there was strong opposition, as there always is, as we're discovering. Even at the time, there was strong opposition to a direct U.S. intervention. So we have a next photo up of these, just 2 people. There they are. That was at the time. That was happening. That's from a march in America sometime in 1965. As we can see from this photo of a U.S. protest march. And the next photo, number 6-1.
6-1.
The yellowy one. Yeah, there it is. Domestically, graffiti popped up all over the Dominican Republic telling the Yanks to fuera, or get out. On May 6, meaning a few days after this, the invasion, an emergency meeting of the OAS set up the Fuerza Interamericana de Paz, the Inter-American Peace Force, or YAPF, with 3 main purposes: to help restore peace, to ensure the security of Dominicans, and to help create a domestic situation which would allow democratic institutions to develop. But we know what they're really at.
Right.
YAP had 1,748 Brazilian, Paraguayan, Nicaraguan, Costa Rican, Salvadoran, and Honduran troops, although they were mostly Americans, and was headed by Brazilian General Hugo Panasco Alvim, with the U.S. Army General Bruce Palmer serving as its deputy commander. We have a photo there. The next photo is of Bruce. There he is. Bruce Palmer, Commander, United States Forces, Dominican Republic, Army, Marines, Marine Force. So, given that he was the second man in charge and the first guy was the Brazilian general, who do you think was giving the orders?
Oh, absolutely the American.
Yeah, Bruce Palmer. Okay. One of the messiest engagements was around Duarte Bridge in Santo Domingo. Ciudad Trujillo was renamed Santo Domingo.
Oh, that's good.
During this time, yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
The entire area was residential and had to be cleared out on a house-to-house basis, while the rebels were firing on the U.S. Marines. Also, the Dominican army found itself randomly hemorrhaging soldiers to the other side, but they didn't have time to change uniform, so sometimes the Americans weren't sure who to fire on.
Oh, that's fun.
Yeah, but they eventually they managed to secure the country. The Civil War formally ended on August 31, 1965, with a ceasefire agreement, followed by the establishment of a provisional government. What is the first function and only function of a provisional government?
Not to murder anybody?
Yes, and their first job is always to arrange for elections, right?
Yep.
All American Marines were gone by now in September, but there were remnants of Army infantry still involved in mop operations around the country. While the first U.S. occupation of the Dominican Republic lasted 8 years, this one lasted 3 months. So we're doing better.
Yeah.
In 1966, I just see how am I doing for my... Oh, no, we'll have a quick look at the 7-1 and 7-2. I skipped over them, but we'll have a look. That's just a scene from the invasion, the American invasion. You can see there's a Dominican hospital behind him, an American with a little American Army sign on it, truck. And the next one is a guy with an M16 rifle. And a Dominican guy thinks he's going to punch his way out of this situation. And maybe he will. I don't know. He looks determined, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I don't fucking blame him, but, what are you going to do?
What are you going to do? In 1960, you can put us back up again. In 1966, they had a democratic election between Joaquin Balaguer, who had been the vice president under Trujillo, but was singing a more moderate tune now, and Juan Bosch, who had been the duly elected president for 7 months in 1962. Perhaps surprisingly, Balaguer won in what looks like a free and fair election. I guess sometimes that happens. Ortega got voted out, remember? In a free and fair election. Yeah, it just happens. Churchill famously got voted out in a free and fair election.
Right.
Norman Thomas, president of the Socialist Party of America, said, in other words, you can trust him, said, during the period of the voting, the opinion of the observers with whom I spoke was that they were carried out very well. There was no violence nor obvious evidence of fraud during the process of depositing the votes. Our observers were treated cordially. So that's pretty much, it was a good election, and Balaguer just won. On September 21, 1966, the last OAS peacekeepers withdrew from the island, which ended the foreign intervention in the conflict. Balaguer did better in office than anyone expected. Like, he wasn't the complete nightmare I think we were all expecting. Certainly I was expecting when I read that former sentence.
Yeah, right.
While he was seen as an American puppet, and his reforms did make rich people richer and poor people poorer relatively, fortunes improved in absolute terms. State-owned industries were protected. State-owned industries being protected, by the way, is great news for any country anywhere. Right. And various foreign investments were encouraged, along with a brand new tourist industry. He was voted back into power 3 times. Good for him, I guess. Yeah. In the 1978, why did I say in the 1978?
I don't know.
In 1978, Balaguer lost to Antonio Guzman of Juan Bosch's old party. He was not a man who liked to lose, Balaguer. He ordered the army to enter election centres and destroy the ballot boxes while declaring himself.
Why not?
Because why not? So I guess the old instincts don't die, do they? No. The old instincts are still there kicking in. Thanks, Balaguer. It was only when Jimmy Carter refused to recognise any of this that Balaguer volunteered to resign, as it was made clear to him that the massive US aid funds would dry up.
Returning champion, Jimmy Carter, by the way. So.
Jimmy Carter, yeah, he's all right. He's the good guy in this one, isn't it? He's the bad guy in one of our episodes, and in 2 of the episodes, he's the good guy.
Probably a couple future episodes is going to be a bad guy too, but
you're planning them, yeah. He's not just about peanuts.
Yeah.
Balaguer would be returned to office in another election in 1986 and in 1990 and 1994. However, the 1994 election was judged less than free and fair due to violence and electoral fraud. Under pressure again from the United States, what would that be in 1994? Howard's Clinton, is it? Or Bush?
That'd be Reagan, 84.
No, 94.
Oh, 94?
Clinton.
Yeah, it'd be Clinton. Yeah.
Or Bush older. Anyway, under pressure again from the United States, Balaguer agreed to step down and new elections were held in 1996, won by Leonel Fernandez, who was raised in New York and had U.S. citizenship. At the age of 42, he was the youngest person ever elected to the office, and he did his best.
Yeah.
Now we're just going to do a quick skip and a jump through the rest of it.
Okay.
In May 2000, the centre-left Hipólito Mejía of the PRD was elected president. He did his best, right? But he was replaced by Fernandez again in 2004 in what appears to be some sort of presidential carousel they have in the Dominican Republic. Fernandez was president until Danilo Medina won in 2012, and he did his best. In 2016, Medina won again against Luis Abinader, but in 2020, Abinader had another go, and he won. Abinader, yes, that's how I say that.
Okay.
Now, just do the last image there. It's just a field.
Not the field, as in from the
Not
movie.
the field, no. In 2022, the US banned all sugar imports from Central Romano, the biggest sugar company, and indeed the largest private landowner, and indeed the largest employer in the Dominican Republic in 2022. There were the familiar allegations of child labour, forced labour, intolerable working conditions that have plagued the sugar industry on that island since 1500, and that's not an exaggeration. It's the same shit that's been going on for the last 4 decades. Also, 5 decades. Also, 5 centuries. Also, the majority of the workers are Haitians, who as undocumented workers in the Dominican Republic have almost no protection in a country that has been primed by decades of propaganda and abuse to hate them. The company uses armed guards to enforce discipline and evict families from their homes. And again, this is going to be familiar business if you were listening to the first part of this, what the Spanish were doing. In 2025, without any of the established protocols being observed and without any reported change in circumstances for the Haitian workers, Trump lifted the ban on Central Romano.
Wow.
In unrelated news, the FanDuel Corporation, one of the largest companies in Florida, and you know them?
No, just an unrelated news. I see where this is going. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you see where this is? I think we all see where this is going. In unrelated news, the FanDuel Corporation, one of the largest companies in Florida and part owner of Central Romano, donated $1 million to a Trump PAC and over $400,000 to the Republican National Committee.
Why not?
$1 million is a lot of money.
Yeah.
How many Haitians do you get for $1 million? Well, let's say they're worth 2 cents each, as we established already. So 2 cents, I don't know. I would say 20 trillion Haitians you get for $1 million. Luis Abinader is famous for his tough position on Haitian immigrants. One of his proposals was to build a wall on the border with Haiti, which was supported by most Dominicans because they're all racist against Haitians, I guess. And I'll say all, you know what I mean. And partially funded by Ramphis Trujillo, the grandson of our old friend above. Under the Abinader administration, the Dominican Republic has supported the US arms embargo on Iran and has also supported moves to oppose the Maduro leadership of Venezuela.
Okay.
And that is where we are now, and that is the end of Operation Power Pack. That is all you need to know about the Dominican Republic, unless something's happened. So, yeah. Do you have any questions or comments or suggestions?
Me?
Yeah, you.
No, I just...
Although I will also take them from the chat, if anybody wants to comments or suggestion from the chat. Is that it?
It's just fucking same old story. Time's a flat circle.
Yeah.
Ways, you know?
Yeah, and Venezuela, the involvement of Venezuela as well is very strange.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be interesting to see where that goes.
Yeah, a lot of shit going on there now, too, so...
Yeah, so what's in the news?
News? Oh.
Yeah. What's new, I mean? What's new? Just before every podcast, I put CIA to Google and hit the news tab, and Seamus puts FBI into Google and hits the news tab, and then we pick 2 or 3 stories, or 5 or 7, we think might be interesting or funny. We have not told each other what these stories are, so we're hearing them for the first time, just like you. Do you want to go first? FBI?
Yeah, I got a boatload, although most of them are kind of the same thing. There's this breaking in a hidden video. I'm reading literally from a tweet, but you guys can find this. I think I retweeted it. If not, I'll retweet it after we record this. Hidden video, Trump's DOJ chief brags, which his name is Joseph Schnitt. Surprised a German would be working for the Trump administration. The FBI is redacting Republican names and only leaving Democrat names in the Epstein file.
No.
Also admits that Janine Maxwell was transferred to keep her mouth shut. So you could catch all that. At least I will tweet that. A lot of stuff about Cash Patel. Pretty much the rest of this.
Cash Patel, yes.
So
his little Mossad girlfriend.
Allegedly,
sorry.
So he gutted the Salt Lake City FBI office
just before. Just so you know, something happened this week. I don't know if anybody watched the news. Some guy, some lame ass piece of shit that tried to debate kids and act like a tough guy and talk about how guns are more important than lives. Got himself shot.
Ben Shapiro got shot.
Boy, almost. Not Ben. Some other clown. I don't know. Anyways, this guy's dead. Who cares?
Charlie Kirk.
Who?
Charlie Kirk.
Never heard of him. Anyways, but because of this gutting, there was a slow response to the FBI. But of course, the responses we did get were fucking terrible because Patel at one point claimed that the killer was caught. He has made claims that the killer was, killer was allegedly a transgender person. And then it was later said that he was a partner in a relationship with a transgender person.
Yeah.
So a lot of the news links that I have here, I'm just going to pretty much just tell you that to summarize. Most of them are all
Cash
about.
Patel down for one of these defund the police people.
What's that?
I wouldn't have put Cash Patel down for one of these defund the police.
Right? Yeah. But he's what is this? Oh, Patel ripped into. That's a different story. I'm trying to see. I think I said I got like 8 different ones that are all the same thing. That there's a bunch of people, and actually, it seems like it's both parties. It's a bipartisan effort for people wanting him to get sanctioned or just flat out kicked to the fucking curb. Which
he's nothing to do with deleting the Republican names from the Epstein files, though, right? That's a separate operation.
Well, it depends on who you ask.
I'm asking you.
Well, I mean, the DOJ is supposed to be doing it.
Okay.
Right. But then, he is the one that said that he was going to have them released, but then tried saying, well, no, they don't exist anymore. What are you talking about?
Jesus.
Yeah.
It's a certain level of fuckery to delete your own lads' names, isn't it?
Yeah. So I have 3 other things that they're all Cash Patel, though. Former top FBI officials sue Patel for firing them. These are different from the ones that already settled.
Okay. I was going to ask you, surely they settled?
Yep. Former director Brian Driscoll, as well as Stephen
Irish.
Jensen and Spencer Evans, which we've talked about all 3 of those as what they've had to say about Patel in previous What's New. Patel ripped into FBI agents in a profanity-laced online meeting in New York, according to the New York Times, and apparently this is all over the Kirk shooting. Him and Bongino had a little bit of issues with each other apparently too. So, yeah. I mean, when you get a bunch of incompetent people, what do you expect, right?
Yeah.
My last What's New, or aka What's Going On with Cash Patel. Of course, it's not going to load for me. He invested in Krispy Kreme amid an investigation into their possible fraud.
The donut company?
Yep.
Okay.
So, nothing to see there.
Wait,
it's very Bernstein, very
invested in them while the investigation was going on?
I believe it might have been just before. Wait a minute. No, it was during it.
That's insane.
Yep. So, you still there? Okay.
The FBI, Seamus.
Well, yeah.
Oh my god!
I mean, it's like I said, it's probably one of the most Bernstein things he's done so far. So. Yep. That's all I have.
Do you want to hear some CIA stuff?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Attacking Iran will drag the US into a regional war, says the former CIA chief. Speaking to CNN, Leon Panetta said, if he attacks Iran, there's no doubt the United States will find itself in a regional war, which they kind of already are.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I like that story is because the outlet it comes from is the Tehran Times.
Yeah.
Next is people fleeing immigration officers scale fence at CIA. Did you hear this?
No.
It's funny. Here we go. A traffic stop by U.S. Park Police and Immigration and Customs Enforcement ICE officers on Wednesday led to a chaotic scene that ultimately resulted in a small group of immigrants fleeing onto CIA property and scaling a fence surrounding the headquarters. Whoa, did they pick the wrong fucking sanctuary, right?
Oh, fuck, man.
Another one from The Hill is U.S. not in the clear 24 years after 9/11. Tracy Fowler, a national security contribution for The Hill sister network, was part of the effort to track down 9/11 mastermind Osama bin Laden, who was killed by Navy SEALs in 2011. She tells allegedly, she tells the Hill that taking out terrorist leaders does not eliminate the broader threat of organizations with extreme beliefs. You can kill all of these people, but you can't kill the ideas that come with it, and they're only figuring that out now.
Right.
Another one from Reuters, inside the CIA's secret fight against Mexico's drug cartels, but it doesn't say how many of those drugs are CIA owned.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting article. Sarcasm aside, it's an interesting article about what the CIA are doing, like genuinely what they're trying to do to fight the drug cartels in Mexico.
Oh, well, now what do we do? We just issue drone strikes and just take them out, Yeah.
They're capturing people as well. They captured the son of Joaquin El Chapo Guzman.
Yeah.
The last one I have is Palestinian intelligence chief holds quiet talks with CIA amid visa bans.
That's surprising.
His name is Mahed Faraj, yes. Faraj's solo entry into the US and his discussions with CIA counterparts signal that the United States continues to engage with Palestinian security officials at a practical level, if not politically. Palestinians had all their visas revoked. Yeah. And none of them were allowed into America, but this one guy was allowed in. So I think that's interesting.
Yeah.
That is it. And I guess if that's the end of it, then that's the end of our show. And how do you feel about that, guys? You like that? Well, we're clocked under an hour. We're doing all right.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to this. And in 2 weeks' time, I guess Seamus might have something. Is that fair to say?
Or we do Founding Fuckheads, or
we'll do Founding Fuckheads, or we'll do something else. But it will not be about the Dominican Republic.
No, we're moving on, folks.
So. Yes, the era of Trujillo is over.
Yeah.
Yay! Right. Yay! Good luck, guys.
See you guys. Bye. But Haiti? Are you sure about that?
Yep.
Okay. All right.